My name is Diana Hensley. I'm 27. Last Thanksgiving at 4:47 p.m., I was standing in my parents' living room in front of 25 relatives while my mother announced she was holding a family vote on whether I deserved to stay for dinner because, according to her, I'd been freeloading off this family's goodwill for 27 years. The ham was still steaming on the table. My cousin Sarah had her fork halfway to her mouth. My sister Megan was smiling into her wine glass. All in favor of Diana leaving, my mother said, her hand already raised. Say aye. My father's hand went up, then Megan's, then my Aunt Carol's, though she wouldn't look at me. The room was silent except for the football game playing on the TV in the den, and my heartbeat pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Motion carries, my mother said. Diana, your coat is by the door. I'd driven 4 hours to be there. I'd brought the sweet potato casserole my grandmother Margaret used to make, the one with the marshmallow topping burned exactly right. It was sitting on the counter, untouched. Mom, I said quietly, what is this about? What it's always been about. Her voice was sharp, clean, like a knife through butter. You've been carrying dead weight your whole life, and we've been carrying you. I think it's time we stopped pretending otherwise. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 6 years to the last time I saw my grandmother alive. I was 21, home from my junior year at State. Grandma Margaret was 84, sitting in her sunroom with the light coming through the lace curtains, making everything look soft and golden. She smelled like Pond's cold cream and Earl Grey tea. Her hands were thin, spotted, strong. Come here, little counselor, she said. That's what she'd called me since I was 9, after I'd helped a boy in my class who was being bullied. I need to tell you something. She handed me a small blue envelope. Don't open this until you need it. You'll know when. Grandma. Your mother, she said, and her voice got very quiet, very firm. Your mother has always confused love with ownership. She thinks because she gave birth to you, she owns your worth. She doesn't. No one does. You remember that. I put the envelope in my desk drawer when I got back to school. I didn't think about it much. Grandma was healthy. She was going to live forever. 3 months later, she had a stroke. Grandpa Henry found her in the garden. She died 2 days after that, on a Tuesday in April at 6:14 a.m. Grandpa followed 6 weeks later. The doctors said heart attack. I knew it was a broken heart. The funeral was on a Saturday. 93 people came. My mother wore black Chanel and cried beautifully. Megan stood next to her, holding her hand. My father gave the eulogy. He talked about legacy and family values and how blessed they'd been to have such generous parents. I stood in the back and couldn't cry at all. The will reading was the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. at Morrison and Associates on Kirkwood Avenue. I sat between Megan and my Aunt Carol. The lawyer, Mr. Morrison, was maybe 60, with reading glasses on a chain. The estate is valued at approximately $360,000, he said. This includes the house, investments, and an education fund of $40,000 set aside specifically for grandchildren. My mother's face was very still, very focused. Mr. Morrison continued. The bulk of the estate is to be divided as follows: 40% to Patricia Hensley, 40% to Robert Caldwell. That's my Uncle Robert, my grandmother's younger brother. And 20% to be split between the grandchildren, Diana and Megan Hensley, for educational purposes. I did the math in my head. That was $72,000 for me and Megan to split, $36,000 each plus the $40,000 education fund divided between us. I could finish my master's in counseling. I could pay off my loans. My mother smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. When will the estate be distributed? She asked. Within 90 days, assuming no complications. There were complications. 2 weeks later, my mother called me. I was in my apartment, grading papers from my student teaching placement. It was 9:23 p.m. on a Thursday. Diana, we need to talk about the will. Okay. Your grandmother, before she died, she made some changes. She was very sick at the end, confused, the dementia. Grandma didn't have dementia. She'd been sharp as glass until the stroke. What kind of changes? She amended the will. She wanted the grandchildren's portion to go to me and your father, to distribute as we saw fit, given your situation. My situation. You're not exactly financially stable, Diana. You're living in that studio apartment. You're working part-time at a school. Your grandmother was worried you'd waste it. My hands were shaking. I set down my red pen very carefully. Can I see the amended will? Of course. I'll have Morrison send you a copy. The copy arrived 3 days later. It was dated 2 days before my grandmother's stroke. The signature looked like hers, but shakier. There was a witness signature I didn't recognize. I called Morrison's office. I'm sorry, his secretary said. Mr. Morrison is semi-retired now. Mrs. Hensley is handling the estate matters through Bartlett and Sons. Bartlett and Sons was my mother's corporate attorney. I called Uncle Robert that night. He lived in Oregon, ran a fishing charter business. We'd been close when I was little, but after Grandpa died, he'd pulled away. Uncle Robert, it's Diana. Silence. Then, I can't talk about this, I'm sorry. Can't or won't? Your mother has lawyers, Diana. Good ones. I don't have that kind of money to fight. Fight for what? What happened? But he'd already hung up. I went to Millfield Elementary the next morning and threw myself into work. I had 23 kids on my caseload that semester. Kids with anxiety, kids with parents going through divorces, kids who drew pictures of horses instead of talking about feelings. I helped a 6th grader named Marcus navigate his parents' separation. I ran lunch groups for kids with social anxiety. I stayed late every night going over IEP plans. I didn't think about the will. I told myself it didn't matter. The estate closed 4 months later. My mother deposited $180,000 into her personal account. Megan got a new Audi. My father got a boat. I got nothing. The education fund was reallocated, my mother explained at Sunday dinner, for Megan's law school. Megan wasn't in law school. She was working in marketing. And my portion? Diana. My mother set down her fork. Your grandmother wanted the money to go where it would be appreciated, where it would be used responsibly. You're barely making $34,000 a year. You live in a 400 square foot apartment. What would you even do with $36,000? Pay off my student loans, finish my master's degree. Exactly. Throwing it away on more education you won't use. She smiled. Megan needs the money now. For her future. You understand? I looked at my father. He was cutting his steak, not looking up. Dad? Your mother's right, Diana. Your grandmother was very clear in the end. She wanted what was best for the family. I stood up. My chair scraped loud against the floor. I need to go. Don't be dramatic, Megan said. She was wearing a new Cartier watch. You always do this. I left. I didn't go back for 6 months. During those months, I kept my head down. I worked. I saw my kids at school. I had a student, a little girl named Sophie, who'd stopped talking after her brother died. For 3 weeks, I sat with her during lunch. We didn't talk. We just drew pictures together. On the 4th week, she looked at me and said, "Do you think he's okay?" I think, I said carefully, he would want you to be okay. She cried for the first time since the funeral. Then she started talking again, small words, then sentences, then stories. Her mother cried when she came to pick Sophie up that day. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Just keep listening to her, I told her. That's all she needs. I went home that night to my 400 square foot apartment. I heated up ramen. I sat on my second-hand couch and thought about my grandmother's hands, thin and spotted and strong. I'd forgotten about the blue envelope. I found it that weekend, cleaning out my desk. It was tucked behind my certification, my master's acceptance letter, a photo of Grandma and me at my college graduation. I opened it. Inside was a single index card in my grandmother's handwriting. When your mother tries to take what's yours, and she will, remember. I see you, little counselor. I always have. The truth is, in the safety deposit box at First Union Bank, box 847. The key is with Robert. Don't give up. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I called Uncle Robert. It was 11 p.m. on a Saturday. He didn't answer. I called again. And again. On the fourth try. Diana, I told you. Grandma left me a note. She said you have a key. Silence. She said the truth is in a safety deposit box. More silence. Then, I can't get involved in this. You already are involved. Please. Your mother will destroy me. She's already threatened to sue me for the 40% I got. She's claiming Grandma wasn't mentally competent. She has lawyers who… Uncle Robert, my voice cracked. Please, I'm not asking you to fight. I'm just asking you to give me the key. He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, I'm in Portland for a conference next month, November 15th. I'll be at Powell's Books at 3 p.m. I'll be in the gold room. I'll leave something for you at the information desk. Thank you. Diana. His voice was rough. Your grandmother knew this would happen. She planned for it. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to help sooner. November 15th was a Wednesday. I called in sick to work. I drove 5 hours to Portland in my 2008 Honda Civic with the check engine light on. I got to Powell's at 2:47 p.m. The information desk had a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside, a safety deposit key and a note in Uncle Robert's handwriting. Box 847, First Union Bank, Beaverton Branch. I'm sorry. I should have given this to you sooner. Your grandmother made me promise to wait until you asked. She said you'd know when you were ready. R. I drove to the bank. It closed at 5 p.m. I got there at 4:32 p.m. The safety deposit box was small, metal, cold to touch. Inside, a sealed envelope addressed to me. A folder of legal documents. A flash drive. 8 cassette tapes labeled with dates. I sat in the bank's private viewing room and opened the envelope. My grandmother's handwriting. Steady, clear, written before the stroke. My dearest Diana, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And your mother has done exactly what I knew she would do. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it while I was alive. I tried, but Patricia doesn't hear reason. She only hears documents. Do you remember the summer you were 9? You helped that boy Marcus, the one who was being bullied. You sat with him every day at lunch. You taught him he wasn't alone. That's when I knew what you were. Not weak, not broken. Strong in a way your mother will never understand. The original will is in this folder, witnessed and notarized by Jennifer Chen at Morrison and Associates, dated March 3, 2018. The amended will your mother presented was forged. I never signed it. The signature analysis is included. The flash drive contains bank statements showing your mother withdrew $180,000 from the estate account. Email correspondence between your mother and Megan discussing how to minimize Diana's portion. The original recording of my will reading, where I explicitly stated you and Megan were to split $72,000 equally, plus the education fund. The cassette tapes are recordings I made over the last 8 years. Every time your mother said something cruel to you. Every time she chose Megan over you. Every time she told you that you weren't enough. I recorded them because I knew one day you'd need proof that I saw what she did. That I believed you. I've also left a letter with my brother Robert to be read at the right time. He'll know when. You are not dead weight, little counselor. You are the only person in this family who understands that love isn't about ownership. It's about witness. All my heart, your Grandma Margaret. I read it 3 times. The third time, I cried so hard I couldn't see the words. I drove home with the documents in my passenger seat. I didn't tell anyone. Not my coworker Emma, who'd become a friend. Not my college roommate who called every week to check in. Not Uncle Robert. I went to work. I saw my kids. I waited. Thanksgiving was 4 weeks away. My mother called on November 20th. Diana, you're coming Thursday, correct? I need a head count for the turkey. I'll be there. Good. Megan's bringing her new boyfriend. Try to dress appropriately. Last year you looked like you just rolled out of bed. I'd worn a sweater and jeans. Megan had worn Burberry. I'll do my best. And Diana, I think it's time we addressed your attitude about the inheritance. It's been over a year. This resentment is unbecoming. Something inside me went very still, very quiet. We can talk about it on Thursday, I said. Good. I'm glad you're finally being reasonable. I hung up, my hands weren't shaking. I called Uncle Robert. I'm ready, I said. Are you sure? Yes. Then I'll be there. 5 o'clock. Don't tell anyone I'm coming. Thanksgiving Day. I woke up at 6:30 a.m. I made the sweet potato casserole. I put on a navy dress, simple, clean. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like my grandmother. Same brown eyes, same quiet determination. I got to my parents' house at 3 p.m. 25 relatives were already there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins. The house smelled like turkey and pie and my mother's expensive candles. Megan was in the kitchen with Mom, laughing about something. She was wearing a cream cashmere sweater that probably cost $400. Diana. My mother looked me up and down. You're early. I brought Grandma's casserole. Her face tightened. How thoughtful. You can put it on the counter. Dinner was at 4:30. We sat at the long table, the one my grandparents had given my parents for their 20th anniversary. My father said grace. We ate. People talked about football and politics and who was having another baby. At 4:47 p.m., my mother tapped her wine glass. Before we have dessert, I think we need to address something as a family. The table got quiet. Diana has been harboring some resentment about the estate distribution. She feels she was treated unfairly. I think it's time we put this to rest. My cousin Josh looked uncomfortable. Aunt Carol was staring at her plate. Mom, I don't think... I started. No, Diana, we're going to talk about this. You've been sulking for over a year. You've barely visited. You've made your father and me feel like we did something wrong when all we've ever done is try to help you. Help me? Yes. You were in no position to manage that kind of money. You were living in a studio apartment, working a job that barely pays anything. Your grandmother wanted the money to go where it would do some good. Megan was watching with that same small smile. So, my mother looked around the table. I'm proposing we settle this democratically, a family vote, all in favor of Diana accepting the distribution as it stands and moving on. Say aye. Patricia. My father said quietly. Maybe this isn't... It's fine, Gerald. Diana wants to be treated like an adult. Adults accept reality. She looked at me. Or we can vote on whether you stay for dessert, since you clearly can't be civil. The room was frozen. Actually, my mother said, standing up, let's do that instead. All in favor of Diana leaving because she's been dead weight to this family for 27 years. The doorbell rang. My mother stopped mid-sentence. Who is that? Everyone's already here. I stood up. That's Uncle Robert. I invited him. I walked to the door. Uncle Robert was standing there in a gray suit, holding a leather briefcase. He was 62, silver-haired, and he looked tired. Hi, Diana. Hi, Uncle Robert. We walked back to the dining room together. Every head turned. Robert! My mother's voice was ice. What a surprise! Hello, Patricia. He set the briefcase on the table. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there's something everyone here needs to hear. This is a family dinner. Whatever you have to say can wait. No. His voice was firm. It can't. He opened the briefcase. Inside, legal documents, a laptop, a portable speaker. Mom left me something, he said to the room. A letter? She made me promise to wait until the right time to read it. I think this is that time. Robert, I'm warning you, my mother started. Patricia, sit down. She sat. Uncle Robert pulled out a letter. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was steady. Dear family, if Robert is reading this, it means I'm gone, and Patricia has done something I hoped she wouldn't do, but expected she would. For the past 8 years, I've watched her treat Diana like she's worth less than Megan. I've watched her criticize, diminish, and control. I stayed silent because I thought Patricia would change. She didn't. The room was absolutely silent. When I drafted my will with Jennifer Chen at Morrison & Associates on March 3, 2018, I was 82 years old and completely sound mind. I left 20% of my estate to be split equally between Diana and Megan. I left an education fund of $40,000 to be split between them. I left 40% to Patricia and 40% to Robert. My mother's face was white. The will that was presented after my death was not the will I signed. The signature was forged. I know this because I recorded a video of myself signing the original will, and I kept a copy in my safety deposit box, along with bank statements showing what happened to the money. Uncle Robert pulled out a folder. Patricia withdrew $180,000 from the estate account on June 15, 2019. She deposited it into her personal account. The education fund was never distributed to the grandchildren. Diana received nothing. He pulled out another document. This is a signature analysis from a forensic document examiner. The amended will Patricia presented was signed by someone else. Probably Patricia herself. That's ridiculous, my mother said, but her voice shook. Is it? Uncle Robert pulled out the laptop. Because Mom also left recordings. 8 years of recordings. Every Sunday dinner, every Christmas, every time you told Diana she was worthless. He pressed play. My mother's voice came through the speaker, clear and cutting. Why can't you be more like your sister? Megan has ambition, you're just stagnant. Another clip. Diana, you're 25 years old and you're working with children for $32,000 a year. That's embarrassing. Another. Sometimes I wonder if we did something wrong raising you. Megan turned out so well. My Aunt Carol had tears in her eyes. Uncle Robert stopped the playback. Mom knew what you were doing, Patricia. She documented everything. She protected Diana the only way she could. This is absurd, my mother said. But she was looking around the table, and people were looking away. Diana probably put you up to this. She probably faked all of it. I have the original will, I said quietly. I pulled it from my purse. Witnessed, notarized, time-stamped, and I have the bank records showing exactly where the money went. I laid them on the table. My father picked one up. His face went gray. Patricia. His voice was barely a whisper. What did you do? I protected our family, she said. Diana would have wasted it. She wastes everything. She's been dead weight since I was born, I said. My voice was calm, very calm. You've said it enough times. I should be used to it by now. I looked around the table, 25 faces. Most of them looked sick. I don't want revenge, I said. I don't even want an apology. I just want the truth to be out there. Grandma Margaret left me $36,000 and half of a $40,000 education fund. That was hers to give, and it was mine to receive. What happened to it is fraud. You can't prove that, my mother said. I already have. I pulled out my phone. I filed a police report yesterday. The district attorney's office is reviewing the case. The original will is with them now, along with all the bank records and the signature analysis. My mother stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You reported me to the police? You committed fraud. You forged a legal document. You stole $180,000 from an estate. What did you think would happen? I'm your mother? Yes, I said. You are, and you've been telling me for 27 years that I'm not good enough, that I'm dead weight, that I don't deserve what I've been given, so I finally listened. I picked up my coat. I'm leaving now. Uncle Robert, thank you. Diana, my father started. Dad, you chose this. You chose her. Every single time. You can keep choosing. I walked to the door. Always been dramatic. She's making this always been dramatic. She's making this up. Mom. That was Megan. Her voice was very small. She's not making it up. I saw the emails. You sent them to me. About minimizing her portion. Silence. I left. Uncle Robert followed me out. We stood on the porch in the cold November air. Your grandmother would be proud of you, he said. Would she? Diana, she loved you more than anything in this world. She saw what your mother did. She tried to protect you the only way she knew how, by making sure the truth survived. I nodded. I couldn't speak. The money from my portion, he said. It's in a trust, for you, when you're ready. Uncle Robert, your grandmother asked me to set it up. She knew Patricia would take everything she could, so I protected what I could. $144,000, invested, growing. It's yours. I started crying. He hugged me, and I cried into his suit jacket while the sun set over my parents' house, and inside, my family fractured apart. 3 weeks later, the district attorney's office filed charges: forgery, grand theft, fraud. My mother hired a lawyer. My father stood by her. Megan sent me one text. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't respond. 6 months later, my mother took a plea deal. Probation, restitution, community service. She didn't go to jail, but she did lose her position on the boards of 3 charitable organizations. My father retired early. They sold the house. I took the money from Uncle Robert and finished my master's degree. I got a job at a private practice, working with kids who'd been through trauma. I helped a 14-year-old girl whose mother told her she was worthless. I helped an 11-year-old boy whose father said he'd never amount to anything. I got very good at recognizing the signs. 1 year after that Thanksgiving, I visited my grandparents' grave. It was November again, cold and gray. I brought flowers, yellow roses, Grandma's favorites. Hi, Grandma, I said. I did it. I told the truth. I'm okay. The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere a bird sang. You were right, I said. Love isn't about ownership. It's about witness. Thank you for seeing me. I left the roses and drove home to my apartment. It wasn't 400 square feet anymore. It was 900, with a balcony and a garden. I had a cat named Margaret. I had Sunday dinners with Uncle Robert and his wife. I had a life that was mine. That night, I found the blue envelope my grandmother had given me 6 years ago. I put it in a frame on my wall, next to my counseling certification and a photo of Grandma and me at my graduation. When your mother tries to take what's yours, and she will, remember, I see you, little counselor. I always have. I see myself now, too. If you've ever had someone tell you that you're not enough, that you're dead weight, that you don't deserve what's yours, type, I see my worth in the comments. Or if you're still working on seeing it, type, I'm learning. Both are valid. Both are brave. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Happy Thanksgiving.